In this next part, we're going to start adding the studs all the way around the perimeter of the structure. So to return to the diagram in your textbook, we're talking about these members right here. So to give you some insights on the dimensions that I'm using, I want to show you this diagram. It's a little bit sloppy, but I think it gives you the sense of what's going on. So we have level 1 at 0, 0, and level 2 is at 9, 3, and 7/8. What leads to these dimensions? A few things. For one thing, the depth of the structure. So we'll be using the same size joists that we used at this level down here. We have a 3/4 inch plywood subfloor. And what we're doing is trying to work with that 8-foot high drywall standard size. So we have the stud length that's 92 5/8, plus we've got 2 top plates and a bottom plate. And that'll leave a little bit of space, a kind of gap to permit us to install some drywall on the underside of this. So it's a little bit bigger than 8 feet. We don't want it to fit completely snug, but we want a little bit of wiggle room. So again, we're using a little bit of a workaround to create these members that you typically wouldn't put in a set of architectural drawings. Again, just to sort of illustrate the process here. So I'm going to go to Insert, Load, Autodesk Family, and I'm going to put in here timber column. Okay, we've got 2. I'm going to go with this first one here, and I'm going to click on Load. Right, it's going to give me a bunch of options. And I'm going to go with this 6x6, and I'm going to say, okay. Okay, so now I brought that in, and if I go to architecture and column, there's the timber column. Did I bring, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to end up changing the size of this anyway. I'm going to make a duplicate, and I'm going to call it a 2x6. So we're going to use this timber column as the starting point for a single stud. So click on OK, and I'm going to change these dimensions to, oops, not 2.5, 1.5. This is a 2x6, and apply and OK. All right, now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to level 1, and I'm going to start placing these. Okay, so under architecture column, and I'm going to click on a point here. I'm just going to put it at the intersection of the grid lines. And let's see here. So I'm going to go back and do this again. I'm going to click the first point here. And by the way, the first click level 1. And then we want it to say, we want it to extend to level 2, and we'll need to make some adjustments for that. But for the moment, I'm going to click a point, and I'm going to choose this vertical column and click again. Okay, so it's there, but you can see it's not going where it's supposed to go. I'm going to take a look at this from the south elevation. And so you can see it's misplaced it. So what I will do while it's selected is scroll up to the top. The base offset, we want, first of all, I'm going to change the top level to level 2. All right, then I'll change the bottom level to level 1. All right, you can see it is overlapping the zone of the plate. So I'm going to change the base offset to 1.5 inches. Okay, that's okay. Unjoin elements is fine. And then I'm going to need to make some adjustments for this top offset. So at the top here, we're going to have a subfloor that's 3/4 of an inch, a 14-inch horizontal framing member, and then we're going to have those 2 top plates. So when I add that up, I get 17.75. So for my top offset, I'm going to input minus 17.75. inches. Be sure to put inches, not feet, and apply. Okay, so there's a little bit of space there that will allow us to get those other framing members in. Okay, now this structure with these grid lines, these are 20 feet, each of them, which works out well for the modules of plywood. The plywood will be applied to the face of these exterior walls. And so the module on 4 feet centers means that you need to have a stud at every 4 feet. So the only one that will not be 4 feet on center is this last one. I need to move it over so it aligns with the edge of the subfloor. So I'm going to go to Modify and click on Align, select my grid line and choose the stud so that it has alignment. Okay, now all I did was to move it over really 3/4 of an inch. Now remember, this is a 2x member, so it's 1.5 in this direction. So for the next one, I'm going to have my studs placed every 16 inches on center, but this one will be the oddball. I'm going to make a copy of this one, and let's do this from level 1. Well, before I do that, let's get the alignment on top of the plate. So I have this edge is aligning, but I want it to align also with this edge. So click on Align, click on that line, and then this one. Okay. So let's see here. So I'm going to click on this first stud, and I'm going to make a copy of it. This first one is going to be 16 inches on center, but minus 3/4 of an inch. So 1 foot, 5.25 inches. Okay. Now, all of the rest will be 16 inches on center. And so the plywood will work within those modules. So I can do an array for this. I don't know how many exactly. I can make a guess. Let's try 30. And I'll put 16 inches. Let's see how we did down here at the end. Okay, that one will need to move in. Okay, so I realized that they go too far, which means my math was not good. So I think I need to move all of them over 2 inches. I miscalculated this first one. I said 1 foot 5.25 when it should have been 1 foot 3.25. So what I'm going to do is make a window around all of them here, and I'll use the move command to get them over 2 inches. Rather 2 feet. Let's do that again. 2. I want it to be 2 inches. Yes. Okay, and I should have the same condition here where it is extending over by 3/4 of an inch. And for that, I can just do the alignment as I had done on the previous one. Okay, so we should have one member directly in the middle, and all of the rest are on these 16-inch centers. And let's take a quick look in 3D, and there we have our framing members. Go back to level 1. Okay, so to continue on, I can make copies of all of these and mirror them about this axis here. So I'm going to pick the first one and then make a window around the others and use this mirror tool. And I will have those all placed on the other side. Okay, now I can work on the wall that's on the west side and the wall that's on the east side. I'll make a copy of one of these. Just going to place it up there. I'll do a rotation. Use the rotate tool, click, click, and then I can use the alignment tool to get them to get into place, align it there and align it here. Now the same spacing applies on this wall, of course, but the difference is that I began my increment of 16 inches from this edge here of this plate. So I'm going to measure the distance from the midpoint of that stud that I just made to here, it's 6¼ So in order to make the first one above that stud, I need to subtract 16 inches from 6¼ from 16 inches. And I'll use the copy command here. Copy, and I'm going to move that and make my copy 9.75 inches. And let's just double check because my math isn't so great. To here, 1'4". That's what we want it to be. So we can do the array command from here. Array, and I think I'll end up with one less. So let's try array. Let's try 29. If we have to erase one, that's fine. And then 16 inches on center. Okay, got one in the middle where it's supposed to be. And then I'll make a copy of this one, that same dimension, 9.75 inches. All right, now these also can be mirrored to the other side. Let's take a 3D view of this. Okay, go back to level 1 and use that same process. I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to hold down Control and begin selecting the other ones. Control, add that one. Mirror, pick the grid line. And then we have all the studs on the first level. Go to 3D view, and that's what you should see.